Okay, so today is the first video in my series covering all 7 of the Canadian teams going into the draft lottery. I am joined today by my friend Kyle, who is clearly an Ottawa Senators fan. So we're just going to jump right into it. Kyle, can you just give me a bit of background and tell me, when did you become a Senators fan?
Yeah, I became a Senators fan around 2001. Before that, I was just a Mark Messier fan, and so wherever he was, I was a fan of him. So yeah, and so I like to troll Canucks fans with that one too. Yeah, 2001, I moved to Ottawa. Love going to games. I got to go see a lot of playoff games between 2001 and 2007 when they did their cup runs, so there was a lot of exciting hockey then to see.
Yeah, you know, I always felt bad for the Senators during that stretch where they had Hossa and Alfredson and all those guys, and every year they would go into the playoffs and I think would be the higher seed, and they would play the Leafs, and either Ottawa's goaltending would let them down or Toronto's goaltending would just be lights out, whether it was Joseph or Belfour.
Well, and then we didn't have to worry about it anymore because Toronto stopped making the playoffs.
Shots fired.
So one of my biggest memories was 2004 when we ended up playing the New Jersey Devils in the conference final. And we felt like we were just one game away from then facing the Ducks.
A period away.
Yeah, it was a stressful time. And even Spezza was a call-up at that point later in the playoffs. So we almost got it. And there's a few almost there, but here we are at the draft lottery. So.
Yeah. One last quick question. Who is your all-time favorite Senator?
All-time favorite Senator, and obviously it's not the huge history that some of the teams have to choose from, but there's a lot of great players. But I'd have to go for Daniel Alfredson. He was a great leader for the team, Calder Trophy winner and leading scorer of all time for the Senators. And even a funny guy too, breaking his stick that one time and doing this mock Sundin, throwing the stick into the crowd. Was really funny and something, I can't believe he thought of at the time. But yeah, got to go with Alfie.
Definitely for me too. I've always had a soft spot for him. So the reason, or one of the reasons that I wanted to have you on today is because I'm really busy now. I have a couple of kids, and so I really have to carve out time in my schedule to watch hockey. I know you always tease me saying how you're living the dream with all your free time and expendable income, but it's true. I don't have the time to really watch other teams and form a educated opinion on them. So that's why I've got you on here today. So I guess the first thing I want to ask you is, what went wrong this year? Why did Ottawa miss the playoffs?
A few things went wrong. A lot of it does come down to coaching, and in recent days, Dave Cameron was fired as head coach. And after that miracle run last year of Hammond and the Hamburglar, making it in the playoffs, being 14 points out, I think we all knew that the team wasn't going to be as bad as they were at the beginning of last season, and definitely not going to be as good as they were at the end of the season, that miracle run. But we did kind of see ourselves as a playoff team, and a lot of it was coaching, defensive breakdowns. Watching Ottawa Senators games this season was just watching your team get outshot almost 2-1 every night. And miraculously, they did win some of those games, whereas the games they did outshoot the other team, they seemed to lose. So it's a defensive problem for sure. And I think that was fixed a bit when they brought Phaneuf in, but that was kind of, I think, too late.
Okay, well, actually, speaking of Phaneuf, I want to bring this up just really quickly. The day that the news broke about Dion Phaneuf being traded to the Senators from the Maple Leafs, this is what Kyle sent to me first thing in the morning after I told him. I said, Phaneuf to Ottawa rumors, and Kyle said, I'm going to throw up. So I can understand that because it's coming from a rival team. But I think, this is just my opinion, again, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Phaneuf was miscast in Toronto. He's not the guy. And so when he went to Ottawa, did he fit in better as sort of that number 2 or 3 on the depth chart?
Yeah, totally. So on the second pairing, him and Ceci really improved Ceci's game quite a bit. Gave him kind of a little free range, or room to roam, do some more offensive stuff because we knew Phaneuf was back there. Phaneuf can obviously be a bit vicious when you're standing in front of the net too, which is a pain when you're playing against him, but when he's on your team, which is the case now, it was really good to see that. So definitely glad to have him, and it was obviously a hard transition to have the guy that you would want to be booing out there to now be on your team. But so is sports, and you want what's best for your team. So.
Was their team this year almost the same as last year, but they just overachieved last season? Because I know you really got on board with the whole Hamburglar thing.
Yep.
You can tell that story if you want. But was it virtually the same team, but they played above their heads last season?
For the second half, yeah, that's
Okay.
it. So when I said I knew they weren't going to be as bad as they were at the first half of the season, and not as good as half as the second. So consistency is a huge problem. Mm-hmm. And Ryan talks about, asked me to tell a story. During the Miracle Run last year, people were saying all kinds of crazy things. So my kind of bet to myself was that if Ottawa had erased this deficit because of him and the Hamburglar, I being a vegetarian since 2006, would eat meat for the first time. As they were about to play Montreal in the playoffs, I hit the McDonald's drive-thru and scarfed down a quarter pounder of cheese before the game, which my stomach ended up being.
I imagine that didn't sit very well. I don't know how you don't eat meat, but no, good for you for jumping on the bandwagon there. Yeah. So, we've talked about the Senators last year and what happened and why they missed the playoffs. So the thing everybody's looking forward to now is the draft lottery. I haven't looked, but I think Ottawa is close to the lowest odds.
What are we at? We got the simulator right here, 2.5%. So not any, but it's a lottery, right? Mm-hmm. So 2.5% is okay in a lottery.
Oh, it's better than nothing.
It is. So we've got. I don't know what they're doing this year for the number combinations, but we've got some balls in the big thing that they spin around if that's what they do, and so we've got a chance. It's like, so you're saying there's a chance.
Yeah. Absolutely. So we're going to run the simulator here. And so what I want to get from you before we start is give me your best case scenario for those top 3 spots.
It's funny because, best case scenario is obviously Ottawa in one of those top 3 spots. For me personally, and as a Sens fan, worst case scenario is Toronto in one of those top 3 spots. So I'm both cheering for Ottawa to maybe somehow have a 2.5% chance and get in one of those spots, and also at the same time hope that our provincial rival isn't sitting on one of those spots either.
So would you say the worst case scenario is Toronto, Montreal, and Boston nabbing those?
Well, yeah, I guess you wouldn't want division rivals, right? Like I know a lot of people are off about Oilers getting the top spot again. I don't care. I just either want it or don't want Toronto or Montreal to have it.
And just let me ask you this real quick. If they win the top pick, and I'm assuming they're going to draft Austin Matthews.
I think they would, yeah.
Okay, so would that make them a playoff team next year? I mean, regardless of we don't know who's going to coach yet, but would that put them
I think they're a playoff team without that next year.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to get into roster moves and all that stuff. No,
because I know that I think it's just maybe with a coaching change. I think that they have the roster to be a playoff team, especially looking at some of the teams that got it. And I think they have. So it's just about systems and stuff like that. So I think if we draft Austin Matthews and he's immediately ready to come up, then definitely I'd say we're a playoff team.
Okay, and that's great. And I agree with you. They're set on defense with Carlson and a good supporting cast there. And I find that in order to be consistent year by year, you need a stud up front, especially down the middle, in defense, and then solid goaltending. So they would have that. So we're going to run the lottery here. I'm going to let you do the honors. You can just go ahead and click it, and if you want, if you need time to react to that first pick, that's fine, or you can just fire through all 3 of them at once. So have at her.
2.5%, let's go. All right. And the first overall pick goes to the Arizona Coyotes.
Wow.
All right.
Wow.
Matthews is going home.
Wouldn't Gary Bettman love to see that? That's not rigged.
No. They didn't have a very good % chance either. That's crazy.
Yeah, I'll have to look after. I've only looked at the Canadian teams to see where they're at.
Second overall. So this is maybe Patrick Lane, something.
Yeah.
Columbus Blue Jackets.
Wow.
This is a.
Could it get any more boring?
We're here to talk about Canadian teams making this.
Exactly. Well, and see, in my opinion, this is, we'll see what the third pick is. That's pretty much worst case scenario is that Canada, everybody bombs and we miss out on some of this top end talent coming up.
All right, and then the third overall pick is the Winnipeg Jets. So we've got Ottawa at 12th, and so not having Toronto there does satisfy me a bit, but also I'd like to see some other Canadian teams in that top 3.
Absolutely, and I don't even think that affected Ottawa's draft position at all.
No.
They were in 12th anyway. Okay, so just to quickly recap, we had Arizona, Columbus, and Winnipeg nabbing the top 3 spots in the draft
Yeah,
lottery.
and like I was kind of cheering for in a way, Toronto out of that top 3. So
Excellent.
It's the little things in life that just make it worthwhile.
Absolutely. Okay, so thank you so much for coming on today. I
Awesome.
really appreciated your time.
Thanks.
Next, we are going to be talking about the Montreal Canadiens with my friend Niles, and that will be up in a couple of days, so be sure to tune in for that.